Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Okay, I have been told that I probably need to stay relatively close to the microphone because it's being taped, and as a presenter who likes to wander, that may be tough, but I'll hold on. My name is Francis Aumand. My nickname is Paco, and that's how I like to be called, so it's Paco Aumand. You'll see it, I think my name advertised that way, but I am the Division Director for the Department of Public Safety. And on behalf of the department, we are honored to be here, and thank you all for attending this workshop on marijuana for cancer patients. I have brought with me the marijuana program administrator, Lindsay Wells, who is my support for the day, for the morning, because she really is the person that, if we get too far down in the weeds to answer some questions, she will be the person that I will lean on, and she'll also be the person that I will ask you to lean on as we go forward to have you become a registered patient or caregiver if that's what you prefer to do. Now, today, for me, this is a day of firsts for me, in large part. It is the first time that I have spoken to this group. It's the first time that we have publicly spoken in a forum like this with regards to Vermont's marijuana program. It is the first time that I get to acknowledge that I too am a cancer survivor and understand to a certain extent the trials and tribulations of being diagnosed and subsequent treatment, although mine was for prostate cancer. It is, during the course of my treatment, I had the pleasure, no, I shouldn't say pleasure, it was not pleasure, but I had the experience of undergoing a radical prostatectomy using the Da Vinci surgical system. So lo and behold, I'm walking downstairs, it must have been the way I was dressed, and they've got a Da Vinci surgical system there on display. Obviously, it caught my eye. So the guy says, "Oh, would you like to try it?" I didn't know what to say. Would you like to try it? So I briefly explained, well, I have already been the recipient of it, but thank you very much. So I'm thinking, well, it must be the way I'm dressed. He may think I'm a doctor or something. So lo and behold, I come back getting prepared for this presentation, standing out front, looking through the material, and they've got me listed as an MD. First, I've been promoted. After my name, it should say MSA, Master of Science Administration, with regards to my true credentials, but I am not a medical doctor. To any of the medical professionals that may be in this room, I really need to clarify that. I am not a medical doctor. And let's see, first, I think that's pretty much it in terms of firsts. I also want to clarify that the presentation description of this event is a little misleading in that I think it says, this session will discuss the current use and regulation of medical marijuana in Vermont and how it can help those undergoing treatment. Both Lindsay and I are going to be very, very careful and not speaking about how the use of marijuana can help you. We are from the state. As such, we regulate a program that the legislature passed by law, and it is not within our expertise nor our job function to advocate one way or another for the use of marijuana. If we do say something that's either positive or negative, it might be anecdotal, and that's all it is from our experiences talking with patients. Anybody who is interested in how the use of marijuana can benefit or help you from a therapeutic or medicinal purpose, please do your own research and speak to your healthcare professional about the benefits, pros and cons of how it will affect you and whether it is something that he or she would advocate for you to do. So with that being said, that little disclaimer, let me move on here. I would like to know, just real briefly, what's the number one question you need answered today, understanding that I just framed what it is we're here to do, but anybody want to venture a stab at telling me what your number one, why are you here, what's the number one question you need answered today? Is it legal? Could you take down some notes here just so we cover it? Is it legal? Good question. Yes.
Where do you suggest physicians go to get educated?
Another good question. Yes.
I want to start prescribing it for patients in California.
So when did they?
I would like to start, so we're wondering how I can get a license to prescribe.
Okay. In Vermont?
It's actually California, but I'm trying to.
Okay. All right. I think the short answer is I'm not. Well. Yeah, California has very much lax laws compared to Vermont, so it should be fairly easy. Yes, and then yes.
First of all, the language is really important. The MDs are not prescribing it. All they are doing on the form is saying you have one of four categories.
That's right.
Okay, so we don't want our MDs in trouble. They only have been treating us for over 6 months and 4 categories that qualify.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That I go in a little more in depth on the slides, but that's a huge point. Thank you. Yes.
What is the side effect profile with medical marijuana in comparison to pharmaceutical antiemetics and pain medication?
Wow. All right. All right. I think that's an excellent question, and it's one that is clearly beyond the scope of the state of Vermont to answer. Okay. And I won't even begin to try to address that because that clearly is a medical issue. But thank you, because that helps frame the conversation from here forward. One more.
Is this paid for by the insurance? I'm just wondering, I don't know that much about it. When they are on this program, is the insurance covering as they would medications?
No.
Okay. So
Is that correct, Lindsay?
Okay.
It's out of the pocket. Yeah. What we just, and I think I can share this because you asked, we just realized that insurance companies, somebody had their home broken into, and their marijuana was stolen. Their marijuana supply was stolen. The plants, and they filed a claim with their insurance company. The insurance company denied the plan based on the federal law making it illegal. They filed a complaint with the Vermont Department of Banking and Insurance and Healthcare. And I believe that the commissioner has just recently ruled that in Vermont it has to be compensable. Is that the way I read that? That's a fairly new decision, just that we were made aware of it this week alone. So, all right, let's move on. So, I guessed fairly accurately when I put this presentation together that information was what you're really looking for today as a result of this presentation. So, that is the website that you can go to get information on the marijuana program in Vermont. That is the phone number for the marijuana registry and dispensary program. And below that is Lindsay Wells' email address to answer any and all questions that you may have relative to how you become a registered patient or caregiver, and or how you might open up a dispensary if that's the direction you want to go. Now, when you go to that website, it will take you to the Vermont Criminal Information Center, which is where the registry is located. So let me take you back a little bit and talk about the Vermont Department of Public Safety, which consists in large part and is the most visible part of it is the Vermont State Police. There are actually several other divisions other than the State Police within the Vermont Department of Public Safety. There is the Division of Criminal Justice Services, of which I am the director. There's Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and Division of Fire Safety, and the Division of Administration. So within the Division of Criminal Justice Services, we have several functions: the Vermont Forensic Laboratory, the Vermont Criminal Information Center, the Office of Technology Management, and Electronic Radio Communications section. As the division director, I have responsibility for all of those, and one of them being the Center, Criminal Information Center. The director's name is Jeff Wallen, and Lindsay Wells actually works for Jeff Wallen. But I'm a dinosaur, which is why I'm standing here today. I have been around since the program was first instituted in 2004 and have been integral in helping to establish the program as we know it today. So you'll see that within the Vermont Criminal Information Center, there are several sections that they manage, or several functions that they manage, but we're here to talk about the medical marijuana registry within the marijuana program, and I'm going to speak to the issue of medical in just a moment. But so you go to this website, get this page, and then you click on the medical marijuana registry, and it takes you to this page, and over in this section you will find information pertinent to the patient, the healthcare provider information, the caregiver, forms, marijuana dispensaries, and some frequently asked questions. Now, what I handed out to you today was, first of all, a list of definitions, a sample patient medical form. I understand after I put it together that we're missing one key component to that, so it is not complete. You will have to go to this website under forms and get the medical verification form to have your healthcare provider fill out. Is that correct, Lindsay? That's the one that's missing? But I handed it out as a sample of the process that we have at Public Safety. All right, so the program begins in 2004. At that time, the legislature passed the marijuana for medical symptom use by persons with severe illness language. When it was passed in 2004, it just said marijuana for symptom use by persons with severe illness. The statutory citations for this can be found in Title 18, Vermont Statutes Annotated, Chapter 86, Subchapter 2, which in 2004 created the marijuana registry. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes because part of the passage in 2004 focused around a controversy with regards to use of marijuana for medicinal or medical purposes. And while we have come to embrace the concept of medical marijuana, the issue of putting medical in front of marijuana tends to be a political one. Back in 2004, there was little support for the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes, except for those patients who were suffering debilitating medical illnesses, and lobbied pretty heavily the Vermont legislature and the governor's office. The Vermont Medical Society was not in support of use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. The Vermont Health Department was not in support of the use of marijuana for medical purposes. Vermont law enforcement was not in support of the medical marijuana program. And the Vermont Department of Public Safety, specifically the Vermont State Police, were clearly not in support of the use of marijuana. So here I am today, standing before you, talking about the state regulations around the marijuana program as an employee of the Vermont Department of Public Safety. And I might add, I am not a medical doctor, as I said, but my background is in police work in the criminal justice system, information technology, and many of the support functions for law enforcement. So, what happened then? What happened if everybody was opposed to it? Well, the patients at the time and that patient's lobby clearly had a story to tell and swayed the legislature. And so politics being what they are, I'm trying to pick my words here, politics being what they are, basically felt that if law enforcement was opposed to this program based on their ability to enforce and regulate it, let's put the program in the Department of Public Safety. Okay. So the Commissioner of Public Safety at the time basically said, okay. And he took a look at his organization and realized that the Vermont Criminal Information Center, whose mission is to protect the privacy, confidentiality, and facilitate the use and dissemination of certain databases, thought, great place to put the marijuana program. So as division director, he came to me and said, this is what we're going to do. And I politely, very politely, because the man's my boss, was my boss, said, are you nuts? Excuse me, but how do you put a program that for all intents and purposes is illegal at the federal level in a law enforcement agency? And his response was, because we want to regulate it, because the legislature has decided that it is going to be legal in Vermont for patients with debilitating medical illnesses to possess up to and use up to a certain amount of marijuana. And who best to regulate that than ourselves? And where best to put it than the Vermont Criminal Information Center, who is charged with protecting privacy and confidentiality and the use and dissemination of certain databases. Well, I need to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it took the wind right out of my sails. I didn't know what to say to that. Of course, he was my boss. And so I turned around, walked out of the room, and said, okay, those are our marching orders. So we proceeded to design a program, and as such, we were calling it the Medical Marijuana Program. And at the time, we got several calls from legislators that educated me, because I'm the dinosaur that's been around for a while, educated me on the fact that it is not a medical marijuana program. I said, what? I was not privy to the major part of the debates concerning the politics and the creation of the law, but I said, what? So I went on a fast education course on the politics around the creation of law, but more importantly, looking at some of the definitions, the two primary definitions with regards to this program. And while I have learned that if you dive deeply enough into the definitions surrounding medicinal and therapeutic, they do tend to interweave with each other. However, primarily, medicinal is of pertaining to and having the properties of a medicine, curative, remedial, etc. Therapeutic, having a beneficial effect on one's mental state, especially, and serving to relax and calm. So what I learned was, while there is debate relative to the medicinal value of marijuana, there seems to be little debate with regards to the therapeutic use of marijuana. Now, please understand, I am not advocating use at all by making that statement, but if you carry it out, there's therapeutic value in a lot of things that we embrace, from alcohol to TV. Okay, so it seemed that the therapeutic language, if you will, was one that people could embrace.
Paco,
Yes.
is that therapeutic definition expanded now?
Well, in 2007, you'll see that they added, I think it was 2007, I do have a slide, that they added medical symptoms to the use of marijuana. the heading of Chapter 86, Title 18. So there has been kind of a little more awareness about it. I tend to be a little fanatical about this. Lindsay is not, and Jeff Wallen, her boss, is not, simply because I know the history behind it, and I do try to protect the politics surrounding it, because one, I don't want to offend anybody who may have a difference of opinion, and second of all, we are here to regulate and promote the law and the program as it's in place. So I'm very sensitive around how we describe it. Yes?
The reason I ask is because it has physiological properties beyond just mental. So that's a discussion for medical professionals, but it is beyond just a mental effect.
Yeah, it does. And it does help relieve the therapeutic value by, as I come to know the term therapeutic, helps relieve symptoms of pain. Pain.
And nausea.
Yeah.
It's very effective with nausea.
I think it's fair to say, and I will, because I did mention that I might talk anecdotally, but I have had in the course of developing this program and being around since 2004, I have spoken to a lot of patients, and patients who use marijuana, and they believe that it significantly does help them. Okay? That's anecdotal information. Please do your own research. Please consult with your healthcare professional about whether it's right for you. So again, we looked at some of the legal language, descriptive legal language relative to medical or therapeutic use that's in existence in state laws. In some states, the legal definition or the legal descriptor is the medical use of marijuana. Vermont uses the term marijuana for medical symptom relief. Okay? So the history of the law, original passage, as I mentioned, was in 2004. Changes in 2007. The term medical symptom was added to the name of the law, created the medical verification form, reduced registration fee from $100 to $50. Now, I want to just, probably I'm a little premature, but I want to speak about this second sub-bullet here, created the medical verification form. When the program in 2004 was first created, there was a belief that the Department of Public Safety would verify the debilitating medical illness, debilitating condition, if you will. And in our process of putting this program together, myself and the director at the time of the Vermont Criminal Information, sat around and said, how are we going to verify the medical conditions of patients? So we basically decided, and we also took into consideration the controversy around this concept of whether healthcare providers prescribe or make any other judgment call relative to the use of marijuana. So we, at that time, decided that, and we interpreted the law in such a manner that we decided that all we, as regulators, needed to do was to get the healthcare professional, at that time it was just physicians in Vermont, to certify that the person has a debilitating medical condition as defined by law. And to, Ann, is it? I'm sorry, your name? Ann Taylor, I did see. My eyes aren't that bad, thank you. To Ann's point, and it's a very important point for any healthcare professional that is in this room today, you do not have to prescribe marijuana. The state law in Vermont is not a prescription law. You are not under any obligation to offer a judgment, at least to us in the program, a judgment about the benefits concerning the use of marijuana for symptom relief. What you are obligated to do is to certify that the person has a legally defined debilitating medical condition and that you have a bona fide relationship, bona fide healthcare professional and patient relationship with that individual. And I will, in other slides, go on to describe a little bit more as to the definitions of debilitating medical condition. So that started the changes in a little shift philosophically in 2007, 2008, and 2009. There were technical and formatting changes. And a milestone occurred in 2011 when they passed the dispensary law that also allowed marijuana-infused products. And they created, actually, they authorized, I didn't change that word, they authorized the creation of 4 dispensaries. The difference is the state does not run dispensaries. I'll say that again. The state does not run dispensaries. We authorized the creation of 4 dispensaries. It is a nonprofit business that people enter into. The little X here is in Vermont. You will not see this form of advertising in Vermont, and I would hope that you would have to look twice to realize that you've just walked by a dispensary in Vermont. Our law was written to protect the confidentiality and privacy of patients, number one. It is designed, and the rules are to protect against theft and diversion of marijuana from these businesses. And it is also designed not to adversely impact the business model of these dispensaries. We now have 3 dispensaries that are operational. The 4th one we are in the process of awarding. There's a dispensary in Burlington, a dispensary in Montpelier. The 3rd dispensary is in Rutland County, and it's opening up in Brandon, and I think it is open? Tuesday. They have been, they've been awarded a certificate. They've been in their growing phase. I guess they open the doors on Tuesday. The 4th dispensary yet to be named will be in the Windsor-Windham County area, southeastern Vermont. Marijuana program has increased significantly since 2004, as you can see by this chart. I think Lindsay was telling me the other day that since she's been here, the registered patients has pretty much doubled in the last year. So there's a significant growth that is occurring in the program. Only 1,000 registered patients may select a dispensary. There is a law within the state that says right now that we can only have 1,000 registered patients that will actually select a dispensary. We're only at about 400 out of the roughly 870 registered patients. We have 400 thereabouts that have picked dispensaries. So I think there's plenty of room to expand. I suspect that the debate this year in the legislature is going to be centered around removing the cap, number 1, of 1,000. And I also think that there will be some legislative debate with regards to adding more dispensaries. And we can have a discussion, although not here, it's not appropriate, but we can ponder whether there is enough business for the dispensaries to have more than 4. I don't know. That's not in my purview to really talk about the business model. However, I would argue that the expanding of the dispensaries to cover the geographic regions in the state may be of benefit to patients. Yes, Ann?
There was something important you said in the beginning about major health departments, police were not in support. And I remember watching the nightly news a couple of years ago, and the state police officer was being interviewed, and he said, "We did not support this in the beginning, and we want the public to know that we do now support the medical marijuana program." So do all of those organizations, the health department, are they all on board now?
Good question. I'm not sure. I was speaking in 2004. I know the state police, certainly because they're a sister organization within the Department of Public Safety, has perhaps developed a little more support for the medicinal use or the therapeutic use of marijuana. Right now, law enforcement is concerned with the continued decriminalization and legalization of marijuana. But I think for the therapeutic use, it's, you know, the further we go in implementing the program, the longer history we have, and that is one point I wanted to make, because part of the stigma around being a registered patient, or at least what I have thought to be a stigma over the years, which is why the program was slow to grow, is being removed. So the longer we go with having a program, the more the public embraces the idea of marijuana for therapeutic use of debilitating medical conditions, then the more accepting people are with that.
How many patients today are in the program?
About 870.
Okay, because when that police officer came on TV, he said, you know, we're really surprised. We only have 204 patients who have signed up, and maybe it was around 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So
It has expanded, and Lindsay, as Lindsay said, it's pretty much doubled since she's been employed, and you've been here a year and a half? A year? Not even a year?
August 13th this
You
So-
probably have to look outside the box on that one, because it states that the law says you cannot grow your own if you're with a dispensary. And I think a lot of these people do choose to grow their own. And that way they're under the target, but they're not being
Well, right,
watched.
400 have, out of the 870 have picked dispensaries. That leaves the balance to either grow their own or procure marijuana in some other method.
Yeah, so probably the numbers are-
And I would, that may be an issue. I think that this legislative session, you've got many more people, including dispensaries, that are up and running that will probably be talking to legislators, so I suspect there will be perhaps other legal changes that occur in this legislative session with regards to Vermont's marijuana program. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about some key terms. You'll find the definition of these terms within your handouts, but specifically debilitating medical condition, bona fide healthcare professional patient relationship, definition of healthcare professional, and the use for symptom relief. These next few slides are a little cluttered, so bear with me. And it's important that we understand, especially seeing as how I've been throwing this term around for the last 30 minutes, debilitating medical condition. In the context of specific disease or conditions described in A and B, A and B of this subdivision, reasonable medical efforts have been made over a reasonable amount of time without success to relieve symptoms means A, cancer, multiple sclerosis, positive status for HIV, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or the treatment of these conditions, if the disease or the treatment results in severe, persistent, and intractable symptoms. So it's not enough just to have cancer, but your cancer has to also resulted in severe, persistent, intractable symptoms, or a disease, medical conditions, or its treatment that is chronic, debilitating, produces severe, persistent, and one or more of the following intractable symptoms. Cachexia. Okay, thank you. There's proof that I am not a medical doctor. Wasting symptoms, severe pain, severe nausea, and seizures. It's kind of a catch-all bucket, if you will. If you can, in consultation with your healthcare provider, show severe pain, severe nausea, or seizures over time. Yes?
Is there a reason that severe pain and severe nausea is in italics?
Is not italics? No.
Is there a reason it's in italics?
Oh, no, I put it there to kind of highlight and to draw attention to the fact that you just you don't need to have the actual symptoms in A, but that if you have severe pain, severe nausea, or seizures, and can relate it to other medical conditions, then you may be entitled to be a patient. That's why I italicized.
Is there an expiration date on the ID at all? I mean, if somebody is in the current, is currently in therapy and is having severe nausea, you know, in 3 years, that may not be the case anymore.
Every year.
So every year.
It's every 365 days. Yep. You have to get a new license, registration card. And your medical provider has to do another medical verification form. Okay, so bona fide healthcare professional patient relationships means treating or consulting a relationship of not less than 6 months, in the course of which the healthcare professional has completed a full assessment of the registered patient's medical history. I was asked to put the bottom one in here. Naturopaths are not considered a healthcare professional by definition right now. The definitions are contained in a variety of sections. It's in the handout. Chapter 23, 33 of Title 26, Chapter 31, Title 26, Chapter 28 of Title 26 are where the legal definitions of healthcare providers are contained. Now, that includes, you can help me, physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistant. Thank you.
And physicians are MDs and DOs.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, what?
Pediatric patients involved in the registry. Pediatric children.
Oh, children.
Yes.
Is there an age?
Yes.
Age for patients? No.
So it's allowed, like, for example, for any age.
Yes,
Because they have the same symptoms, children, like adults.
it is.
With all the symptoms.
Yep.
Yes,
So
parents
this
just,
legally is,
yes.
Yeah, parents just have to sign off on it.
and how many patients from these 800 are pediatric?
How many patients today are minors or juveniles? Don't know. I don't know. Do we have any minors, juveniles that we're aware of, or we do? We can't, I don't think it's, with regards to privacy and confidentiality, I don't feel comfortable going any further than saying, yes, we do.
But who decides for these minors? Is the professional, is the field department?
It's,
Who decides?
if anybody has a debilitating medical condition, and they have a bona fide healthcare professional relationship, and with minors, if the parent, which is anybody under 18, signs the form, that's all they need. A healthcare professional means an individual licensed to practice medicine, an individual certified as a healthcare professional's assistant, or an individual licensed as an advanced nurse practitioner. This includes individuals who are professionally licensed in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, or New York. Another key point. The use for symptom relief means the acquisition, possession, cultivation, use, transfer, or transportation of marijuana or paraphernalia relating to the administration of marijuana. If you are transporting it, it must be in a locked container. To become a registered patient, you must be a Vermont resident. You must have a registration card that is issued by the Vermont Criminal Information Center of the Department of Public Safety. And you must have a debilitating medical condition that is verified by your healthcare provider. A patient may apply for the lawful use of marijuana for symptom relief by submitting a completed, notarized, department-approved application form with the required medical verification form, and because we're from the state, you got to pay $50 per year. So, you decide you want to apply to be a patient. What do you do? The following information on a Department of Public Safety form is needed. Some of this is a little redundant, but descriptive information about you, information about your healthcare provider, the name of your caregiver and dispensary, if any, notification if you are growing your own, copy of your Vermont driver's license, a digital photograph of yourself, the release form, which is part of the application process, must be signed, and you must get the medical verification form completed. And here is screenshots of the medical verification form. Healthcare professional must complete this form, so you take the package to your doctor, nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, and get them to complete this section of the form. So, to Ann's point, no prescription or medical recommendation is required. Very, very important for any healthcare professional who is in the room. Again, I'll repeat myself. No prescription necessary to get a registration card in Vermont. No judgment about the value of the use of marijuana by your healthcare professional need to be made. Only that you have a debilitating medical condition and that you have a bona fide healthcare professional relationship. Okay, so what happens if you don't have that bona fide healthcare professional relationship? Oh, I'm sorry, this is with, I jumped my slide. You need a statement from your healthcare professional verifying the identity of the debilitating medical condition, statement identifying the existence of your relationship with that person, and you have to provide the healthcare professional licensing number and healthcare professional signature. Your healthcare professional must do that. Yes?
Even if your healthcare provider doesn't necessarily believe in that, they don't really have a right to say no if you are in the category of one of the four.
There is nothing in the law that mandates, directs, or is suggestive at all that the healthcare professional needs to fill out this form for any patient that has a debilitating medical condition. So, to answer your question, your healthcare provider may make a decision not to complete the form, and the only thing that you can do would be to go find a different healthcare professional.
You couldn't get as well as dictated office visit saying that you are this patient, you have these diseases, this symptom, these, and then use that attached to the
you
form.
cannot. That healthcare provider must sign that form.
So who decides the dose, the quantity of the prescription, or who decides for the dose? Whether you are dispensing overdose, underdose, who decides in the law? If the
Nobody.
physician is not prescribing, so who will decide that you are giving this patient around the year, not underdose or overdose?
Good question. Good question. Nobody. The answer to that is nobody. The only thing the law prescribes, if you will, or allows, is possession limits of marijuana. The law does not address how often you can use it, how often you should use it. It makes no determinations relative to the value, if you will, of marijuana. Yes. Yes.
I was just thinking, when people are on medication for pain, it affects them differently because they need that medication for pain. It doesn't affect them the same way as it would if somebody were using that prescription medication. Are there any directives or concerns about people who are going to be using this program in terms of them, for instance, especially if they've never used it, I mean, in terms of them being able to drive safely, that kind of stuff, I'm just wondering if there are any thought around that.
There are no directives. There are.
Driving, there's alcohol, no way. And so that's one of the arguments about, these people with this marijuana hang-up. You're not going to get the flight to drunk driver. With children with a
pediatrics, the pediatric psychiatrist, I'm from New York, at St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center, and excessive use, they're seeing psychosis. So there does need to be monitoring for that younger age group, even into the early 20s when the brain is still completing the development. For adults, there's no such information available. The thing that's been expressed to me from the physicians at Roswell Park is smoking a plant is a problem. We don't care what plant it is. And so you don't get the same concentration if it's in the brownies and the tea, blah, 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 but the smoking is definitely a concern. And so that's, we really need to get people looking into this properly, because it's very effective. When I first started, I was 96, I had a patient getting the most metagenic regimen you can imagine. He was never sick. And the nurse told me one day, just go close to him. So I pretended I was, and I went back and said, oh, he's never going to have nausea. So, very effective. But unfortunately, people have to get it illegally. I'm not even allowed to say in New York. New York has gone crazy. They have iStop now. And they're over there. But anyway, I can't even say use marijuana. I just say there's a carbo, it's illegal, ask the hospital kids. And everybody.
I don't want to really skirt your issue about driving. Yes, that's a concern, but impaired driving, generally speaking, is a law enforcement and public safety concern. All right? Whether it's alcohol, whether it's prescription drugs, or whether it's illegal drugs. Impairment is impairment is impairment. There is no presumptive level at this point that I am aware of, I know not in Vermont, with regards to the level of impairment correlating to the THC content in your blood. I do know that Colorado a few years ago did some extensive research and had a presumptive level that they were trying to get passed in their legislature, and I know it did not get passed. So the simple answer to your question is impairment, and law enforcement and the public ought to be concerned about anybody who is driving impaired. Listen, I know that lunch is going to be starting, and I only had till 11:50, and I got about 2 minutes, so I have to talk real fast. I want to just cover a couple of things. For the patient without a bona fide healthcare professional, you still can become a registered patient if you do not have that 6-month relationship with that medical doctor. But the law has a few more gotchas in it. You've got to have a debilitating medical condition. The new healthcare provider must say that it's recent and sudden onset, and that the patient has not had a previous healthcare professional who is able to verify the nature of the symptoms and provide a healthcare professional licensing number, et cetera, the same way. So it is possible. And that the patient application must be notarized. So registered caregiver, we didn't talk about in great detail, but a caregiver may also enjoy the same legal protections for the possession, acquisition, not use, in Vermont. So the registered caregiver must be 21 years of older, must possess a identification card issued by the Vermont Criminal Information Center. They can have no drug convictions, and they can only be a caregiver for one patient. Privacy and confidentiality, I want to touch on that a little bit. I touched on it in the beginning. We are very, 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 very concerned with privacy and confidentiality. To the point where we, that's the Department of Public Safety and even myself, have been criticized a little bit by the press for our not disclosing certain issues with regards to dispensaries that they think that there is a greater public need for disclosure. We think that the law is designed, as I mentioned earlier, to protect the businesses, these newly formed businesses, to protect against theft and diversion, and to protect the confidentiality of the patients, thus making their exposure to the program a little more, a little better. All records of registered persons are kept confidential. We do have exceptions for law enforcement. Law enforcement may get information on registered patients. We have a database, but they can only search that database by the registered number. So if they stop somebody and they've got marijuana and they give them a registration card, they can search this database to determine whether that card is valid or not. The other thing that law enforcement can do can be to contact, I guess it's Lindsay, and with person and property specific information that's connected with their criminal investigation. That's it. That's the only way that they can get information. All information submitted by patients, caregivers, healthcare professionals are confidential. Also, information submitted by a dispensary to us is confidential. Employees, board members, etc. are confidential. What we have decided is that we will release locations by town of the dispensaries. And information contained within a dispensary about you is confidential. Patient's conduct, real quick, a registered patient must or may, they cannot possess more than 2 ounces of usable marijuana, must not cultivate no more than 2 mature marijuana plants and 7 immature plants if the registered patients elect to cultivate marijuana, may possess marijuana paraphernalia, may designate 1 caregiver, may be in the presence or vicinity of the use of marijuana for symptom relief, and may only designate 1 dispensary, and neither the patient nor the caregiver may grow marijuana after July 1st, 2014. I forgot to remove that. I'm sorry. May not grow marijuana. Ah, there you go. You get a get-out-of-jail card free in the state of Vermont. If you have a valid Vermont registration card and you're in compliance, you may be exempt from Vermont arrest and prosecution. You also are exempt from the seizure of marijuana. And it's may because you need to be in compliance with the law. If you're not in compliance with the law, then you could be subject to arrest. What if you're present when a registered patient is using? So you're here, you're not a registered caregiver, you go into a house, there is a friend of yours who happens to be a patient, and they're using marijuana. Title 18 VSA Section 4474B sub C says, no person is subject to arrest or prosecution in Vermont for constructive possession or any other offense simply being in the presence of a registered patient engaged in the use of marijuana.
The registered patient doesn't have any obligation to say he won't be doing it in the presence of
No.
children or anything.
What if the patient's in another state?
In another state,
Yes, not Vermont.
they have to comply with that state's laws. Healthcare professional exemption, we still have the healthcare professional is exempt from certain state laws. This down here, you know, there is, and I'm not going to go into any great detail with this, but there is plenty of information on the web for both patients and healthcare providers. I just put that there. I have there's no statement whether this material here is of any value. It is just simply a resource. No release. The marijuana program does not release names of healthcare professionals. Very important. We also do not go around telling people that if your healthcare professional is not supporting you, then go see this person. We don't do that. Federal position. As of August 29, 2013, basically the federal government and the Obama administration has said that they will not pursue prosecutions against cultivators, distributors, and patients as long as they are adhering to state laws. A huge milestone for the marijuana program. Huge. Fees. It's expensive. I guess it's expensive. If you're a patient, it's $50 a year. Caregiver's $50 a year. I guess you can argue it's expensive to be a dispensary. The non-refundable application to become a dispensary is $2,500. If you do not get selected, you get to go through a round go, but we keep the $2,500. The state of Vermont gives $2,500. The law was written that way to make sure that we receive thoughtful, bona fide business applications, or applications from bona fide businesses. That's about it. Status across the nation. 20 states and the District of Columbia have medical marijuana laws and decriminalization laws. And you know what? I gave a handout with a summary of what states are doing, so I'm going to skip. Here's another nice little colorful slide that I stole off the internet that shows states that have not done anything, states that are doing medical marijuana initiatives, and states that have both medical marijuana and decrim. Notice that all of the New England states, but New Hampshire has got both decriminalization laws and medical marijuana laws. Vermont, by the way, Vermont does not honor medical marijuana registration cards from other states. Okay. I'm sorry I went 4 minutes over. So a hand? Yes, sir.
Two questions. One regarding confidentiality. Is this accessed by the healthcare industry or insurers at all?
No. Lindsay, are you aware that any healthcare? No.
Okay. And the second part regarding the federal government, if you hold the U.S. government security clearance at all, and you're working, say, as a contractor for IBM, do you know if this impacts those security clearances? Have you seen any discussion or sat at tables when that was brought up?
Great question, and we do not know. We do not know the effects on it. As a matter of fact, we are beginning to have conversations in the Department of Public Safety as this law continues to expand. What do we do if somebody in our employment, public safety, becomes a registered patient? Very premature discussions. There's no decisions have been made at all, but I had this conversation just recently with the commissioner, and my only suggestion was that we really have to look at the debilitating medical condition, not whether they're not what they're being prescribed, but can they work due to that underlying debilitating medical condition. So, but that issue is going to be, I think, a large issue on the national level as these programs continue to expand, as the legalization issue continues to be debated and expand. So, yes, sir.
So what is we believe that with this restriction, how many patients that they don't benefit from such a thing because we have a lot of restriction? The other question, how much this restriction helps you to nobody use it for illegal, for example? What is your program that has gone to the community by using it illegally from your program? So is there any percentage?
I do not have any numbers, and I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but
you put restriction because you want to protect the nation or the people. How much from your program will leak, or they will use it illegally by using these dispensary by this registration? So it's still there. And also the other side of it, if we believe it's drug, a lot of patients, they will not be able to register or to go. So that means we are denying a lot of patients from important drug, if we believe that it's a drug.
Important drug being marijuana?
Yes, if we believe, as the lady, she said, it's worked very nicely. That means we are denying a lot of patients not using it because of our restriction.
Well, I don't think that's a question or even a comment that I should comment on. Relative to our role is just to regulate a program within the laws that are given us. That is a societal and political question that I'll leave to legislators to debate. I hope this has been informative. I know we went a little bit over. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your attention.